Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Need my privilege to extend a warm welcome to each one of you, the invitees, and also all the viewers watching this program live from different part of the country, different part of the world. And I know there's a couple of viewers watch this program regularly from US. They send me SMS in the late night and give a genuine comment. And sometimes they say your program was waste, I watched it. But that's what we look forward from our members. Before I call upon speakers, I know some latecomers still enjoying the idli and kachoris. So I thought 3-4 minutes I'll take extra to tell you what's happening in MMA next few days, so that if you by any chance missed it in your inbox, you don't miss these programs. Then on the 8th of Saturday, 8th of February, we have the MMA annual convention. Immediately after this, on the theme Adapt to Win, Leading Disruptive Changes in a Changing Economic Order. I urge upon you, got more than 500 plus nominations registered, but I still tell you that you don't miss this event. We got some outstanding speakers talking something very interesting. In case you're not able to come, do watch this program. Is live on YouTube, live on Facebook, as well as live webcast. We have got some outstanding speakers from the Indian corporate world. Sunil Kant Munjal, chairman of Hero Enterprises. Mohandas Pai is going to be talking on how the digital world is changing the businesses. Then we got Anil Raj Gupta, who is the chairman of Havels. Havels is the one who has done some disruptive innovation. And Swami Mukundananda, he is Swamiji is from Dallas, USA. He is from IIT New Delhi, and I am Bangalore, and he's gone to US and settled down, done his Swamiji thing, and one of the most sought after Swamiji in the world. So you must listen to him. He's going to talk to us about how to live happily and how you really, some of the inhibitions which you have in life, you can really discard them. Then we got Suresh Narayanan, who is a chairman managing director of Nestle. Then Ankut Puri, partner of McKinsey & Company, one of the authority on AI. He heads the artificial intelligence of McKinsey & Company. He's from MIT and done some masters, and one of the keenly studied in the artificial of Aditya Birla Group. Then we also have Ritu Gupta. She's the director of Dell. Ambi, you all know Ambi is a marketing guru. Ambi Parmeshwaran is a brand, the evaluation of brand. He's going to be talking to us on how the brand is valued. Then we got Mr. Arun Kumar. He is from JNU, and he's a gentleman who is authority on black money, who has also written so many books on demonetization. He knows Indian economy is a great economy, highly subsidize this participation fee. On 10th of Feb, again, we have an interesting event, corporate strategy in response to climate change, impact on businesses. Sheila Srikumar, she's come from international speaker from Western Sydney University from Australia, and Sheila Sriprakash will be chairing this session, because we do it under the UNDP resolution of 14, under which this also falls. We really want to do something, because if you're not really taking care of climate change, you're going to be in deep trouble. On 11th of Feb, we have again a very interesting event. We have one of the outstanding speaker. He's a Guinness Book of World Record holder in memory. He's called Memory King. He's Krishnan Chahal. He's a co-founder of Mirchi, come all the way from Delhi. Suresh, company chairing. He's going to be talking to us on art of memorizing. It's good, especially youngsters should come and listen to him, so that the memory really gets improved. You learn some technique which will stand you good in all your endeavor. Then on 14th, we have a talk on presentation discussion on budget 2020, where from here the Indian economy. You have seen the budget. It's a budget which everybody is talking about. It's a budget which is long-term measures have been implemented. They wanted to. But what exactly the experts say? We got some outstanding speakers. Sheshai, Vice Chairman of Hinduja Group, former Finance Secretary, advisor to the Prime Minister, Ravi, Director of Hindu, Ravi Chandran Purushothaman, Head of Danfoss, and Nagappan is a stockbroker, market analyst. They're going to be discussing. It's happening on 14th evening at the same time, please. On 21st of February, again, we have a nice talk on MMA KM Presets, panel discussion on influence of e-commerce and trade and logistics. 28th, again, we have a financial segment at Bhupati & Co. We also finalized all the program for the March. March, we have an uncommon leader favoring Vanitha Siddhartha, founder of Grida. She is going to be talking, again, a great achiever. On 4th. On the 6th, we have a conclave on corporate governance and economic value enhancement. We are getting a former SEBI chairman. We have got some outstanding, because we are talking quite a lot about the corporate governance. Governance is very important. The digital way, the digital world, how we are going to implement the corporate governance is the one which we will be discussing. It's a full day conclave. Then on the 9th of March, we have again a panel discussion. This is a thing which is dear to our heart, inclusiveness at the workplaces. We have got some outstanding panel here. Bhavani Balasubramanian, partner Deloitte, along with Lalite Balakrishnan, principal MOP, Venkat Narayan, president of head of HR, Umaro, vice president HR. We want to talk what is the inclusive growth in the workplace. We are little bit, we'll be talking about gender parity and work, harassment of workplace. What we want to do is that each individual working in a workplace gets everything what he wants to work comfortably. No, you can't treat the age of 20, 30, 40, each group, age group, think differently, act differently. Now, does the manager gives enough opportunity for the youngsters to really take decision? Does he encourage the young people to take decision, or are they disgruntled? There are quite a bit of areas which we will be discussing because we want to make the workplace happy. At the end of the day, when the person goes home, is he really looking forward to come back to work next day? That is what makes the people happy. That's what we are going to discuss here. Then on Saturday, 14th March, our Women Convention, Dreaming Big, is the thing. We have got again some outstanding speakers talking to you. I won't take time. My time is another 1 minute only left. Then on the 27th of March, shop. Then this again outstanding speakers. R. Gopalakrishnan, former executive director Tata Sons, is going to be talking to us. Shapers of business institutions. So he's going to be talking on some of the best business institutions, how they have been shaped, how they have been doing so successful, what they are doing. Now coming to today's topic, the art of making better defensible decision. The gentleman, actually I must tell you, you are all blessed today to listen to him. Those who are watching and those who are missed, they are the losers. I can tell you he's one of the finest speaker, finest human being I come across, because I met him a couple of days back. Since the time I met him, I'm eagerly looking forward to listen to him, because he is the man, very young man. He's only 78 years old. He's bubbling with so much of knowledge and energy. He's come from all the way from US, done already a couple of workshops today. We're going to talk to us. At the end of the day, I'm quite sure you'll become more wiser, more knowledgeable to know on this decision-making process and much more than this. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand together to welcome Dr. Professor Errol Vikrasinghe, President of Singh. And to chair the session, we have Mr. Srikanth, Managing Director of ABI Showa Tech India. May I request Dr. Errol and Srikanth to take your place on the dais.
I will take this one also.
Yes, yes. Before I call upon Srikanth to take it forward, let me have the privilege of introducing Srikanth. He's a past president of Madras Managing Director of ABI Showa Tech, and he's done his B in Mechanical, MS in Mechanical Engineering from Pune University, USA. Srikanth joined Brakes India Private Limited in the year 1984, and presently is the joint managing director of the company. He started his career with Sundaram Polymar, involving manufacturing of engineering plastic compounds and injection molding. Srikanth, over 20 years of experience, senior management experience, mainly in operations. He's also serving on the board of several associate companies. He's the chairman of Real Talent Engineering Limited and also managing director of ABI Showa Tech India Limited. He's also board member in Jones and Oman, LSLC Oman, and a number of other companies, then Dynacast, and also EduTech NTTF. He's also the trustee of Sundaram Charities and Chennai Wellington Corporate Foundation, and is also past president of MMA. Here I must add, Mr. Srikanth was the president when he was the chairman of our building committee, closely involved with building committee, and he's the one who pushed us to do what you're seeing, the beautiful place. The many credit goes to him. That round, the big round of applause to Srikanth. Let me have the privilege of introducing our distinguished speaker for this day. Dr. Errol is author of the book of Decision Making and Negotiating. He is also internationally recognized expert on decision making. He has trained several Fortune 500 companies in the USA, including reputable entities such as US Navy, Walmart, Hyatt Hotels, Starbucks, and much more. He is also a guest lecturer at the University of Houston and MBA program. He started his life as an apprentice mechanic and went on to become an oil and gas engineer, research scientist, university professor, management consultant, director of public utility. Graduating as a valedictorian of TC University, UK, in mechanical engineering, he went on to obtain his PhD in fluid mechanics, having won the scholarship from the prestigious Confederation of British Industries. He has lived, worked, and trained professionals in Asia, Middle East, Europe, North America, South America. He has worked for some of the largest companies in the world, Abu Dhabi, and much more, and almost all the countries in the world, and is also a member of University of Zulia, where he lectured in Spanish. We consider the privilege to really host Dr. Errol today. And one thing I also request Dr. Errol to share with us, what is lifelong learning? How he's been able to do so much at the age of 78, when many of us at the age of 48 is crumbling. So you must also teach us how to take that decision, makes you really so vibrant. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Very warm welcome to the distinguished speaker and the chairman. And over to Mr. Srikanth to introduce the speaker. And Mr. Srikanth, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor and privilege to welcome here to MMA Professor Errol Veerasinghe, all the way from San Jose in the US. And he's going to talk to us on the art of making better defensible decisions. He has authored a book on this subject called Better Defensible Decisions. And let me begin, first of all, by thanking him to be with us in spite of his busy schedule. And as Group Captain already mentioned, at 76, he's able to travel the world and take so many lessons and be a mentor to so many people and so many industries. It's really a credit to his passion for the subject. Since we have a number of invitees from other organizations, particularly the faculty members and students from educational institutions, let me briefly make a mention about MMA. MMA was established in 1956. It's the largest management association in the country and has been awarded the Best Management Association in India by the All India Management Association for 10 years in a row, the last 10 years in a row. With 8 chapters spread out in Tamil Nadu and Sri City in Andhra, MMA conducts over 750 management programs every year and has been at the forefront in propagating management education, in large measure in South India. I also take this opportunity to welcome members of MMA, invitees, and a number of viewers are watching this program live on the webcast and also in YouTube and Facebook. I must confess I know very little about the subject that is being the topic of discussion today. Defensible, from what little I gather, a defensible decision could be seen as a decision that will withstand this hindsight scrutiny in case the outcomes are not expected to be what we believe they should be. And this also alludes to the process of recording a clear rationale for all the decisions made and the discussions that led to the decisions. There is a clear distinction between defensible decision-making and defensive decision, which I'm sure Professor will elaborate when his talk begins. We are indeed privileged today to hear from him, and he has authored a number of books, not only on decision-making, but also on negotiation. Many of you may not know he is very fluent in 3 languages, English, Sinhalese, and also Spanish. And he has also taken a number of courses in Spanish in universities. Once again, let me welcome him, and we are all eagerly look forward to hearing him today. Thank you.
Can we get this thing going? Oh, I got to start it. This one's too low. Yeah, this one, right? Has it come out or not? All right, good evening. Thank you. That's a loud welcome. Thank you very much. Yes, I've been here in Chennai for about 12 days now, 11 days, and I can assure you I feel very much at home. I also must say that even though I'm Sri Lankan, I have a son-in-law who is a Tambram. So we are very happy that we are part of your lot, right? So why did I say defensible decisions? Because any decision you make, you have to defend at least to your spouse, if not for corporates, right? And in addition to that, I'm going to talk about 2 concepts called, am I in the way? I'm sorry. Why don't you sit over there? Maybe that's better, yeah. In addition to which, I'm going to talk to you about something called decision validation and decision zone mapping. The stuff that we're going to talk are quite revolutionary, so please pay attention, because in the interest of time, I cannot stop. I'd love to if they'll allow me to, but I think you guys have a control on time. Cell phones off, please. I don't need to say that, but you probably know, but if you've forgotten it, please do that. So how many of you would give your car to a mechanic who is not trained? Anybody with the hands up? Probably not, right? Anyone will go to a dentist who is not trained? Almost certainly not, right? But the question is, why not? The reason is he'll screw up your mouth and your car both, right? Yes or no? And then, would you also say a trained person might do better? Come on, get responsive. Awesome. In that case, what about untrained decision makers? Are they not likely to fall flat on their face one of these days? Probably they will, right? So let me start by explaining to you about decision making and problem solving, because people have lost sight of that a little bit. Problem solving starts with a symptom. So let's say you have a son or a grandson who's got a swollen foot. When he runs, every time it swells up. So you see the symptom, you go to the doctor who identifies it to be a problem with the arch or the shape of the foot. So you say, "Doc, what can I do?" Then he says, "Well, you can bandage it, put it on ice, wear special shoes, or some surgical intervention." He's given you some options. Now you think deep and then you say, "Okay, we'll give it a shot, we'll wear special shoes." Then your spouse is going to ask, "Well, why did you do it?" So you've got to validate that decision. I'll teach you in a short while. And finally, you must wear the shoe, which is the implementation. So ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, there are 6 steps to the problem-solving process and decision-making process. We are only going to talk on 4 and 5. Why? Because problem-solving is not decision-making. Problem-solving is unique to the problem, to the domain expert. The mason knows his work. You can't teach the mason what the problems are. The same with the banker, same with the IT guy. They are domain experts, they know their business. But decision-making is unique to the person. It's about the person who makes a decision. And to better illustrate this, let me say something, touch wood, nothing happens, but this evening when you go home, the red light in your car comes up and says service engine. And you say, "Oh no." So you, first thing in the morning, you go to Jim, your mechanic, and say, "Hey Jim, what's the problem, man? I got a red light." Then he says, "Let's run the diagnostics and see what happens." So he runs it and he says, "Sir, you got a gear train problem." "Oh Jim, what can I do?" Well, he says, "Or if you have some extra money, we'll put a brand new unit." So while you mull over it, he says, "Sir, your car is knocking a few years, it's a bit old, why don't you consider selling it?" Let's ask ourselves who did what. Jim gave. Does Jim know any of this? No. You must make the decision. What did Jim do? Solve your problem. And what are you going to do? Make a decision. In fact, the president of a company or a country does not solve problems. He or she makes decisions. Do we agree? Okay. Now, what about bad decisions? That's a serious problem. I want to take a minute to show you what's been happening. So as you can see, bad decisions can have catastrophic consequences. So if companies like Kodak, Coca-Cola, and Yahoo, and Microsoft, if these guys can go under in millions, is it not likely that you too could also be exposed? Ladies and gentlemen, no one is immune today. In fact, in 2019, just last year, a startup called WeWork was valued at $49 billion, filed for bankruptcy. And a 94-year-old company, Dean Foods, the largest milk producer in the USA, also filed for bankruptcy. So it doesn't matter if you're a startup or you're a newcomer. You're at risk, and the decisions you make will have an impact. That is why Marshall Goldsmith, in his famous book, wrote, "What got you here won't get you there." To assume, and we with traditions, we tend to think, oh, we've come so far, we know what we've been doing, it's okay. It's not, ladies and gentlemen. And when it comes to decision making, there's another problem. We all like to think we are in control of our decisions. So I have a major problem unlearning you, because you don't realize that some of your decisions are in your DNA, and we're going to show it to you in a minute. Others shape the environment in which you are, and you don't even know it. And some others intentionally manipulate with your brain. So let me start by a comment from Deepak Chopra, one of your own.
Dr. Chopra comes at this as a doctor, as a scientist, and a very eloquent seeker, given us so much to think about, coming at it from a scientific basis and then moving into many more theories and thoughts.
We've been able to look at the brain. We've been able to look at gene expression. We've been able to look at cell markers of aging, telomerase, telomere length. We've been able to look at what are called inflammatory markers. In other words, everything that's happening in the body at a biological cell level. 23,000 genes, 3.3 million bacterial genes. Actually, your body is more bacteria than it is human cells, the microbiome. So we're looking at those genes, and then we're looking at what is called the epigenome, which is the shell of proteins outside the genome, and how these work together. And what we are finding is remarkable. You know, in the beginning, nobody would believe us, but now we have collaborations with Harvard, UCSF, UC Scripps, with digital technology, with Duke University, with Mount Sinai. We can look at a blood sample, and we can tell you if you're experiencing samadhi occasionally or not, if your mind is quiet or not, if you're falling into the place where he
even whether our parents experience this.
Parents too. In fact, the epigenetic shows that your experiences now, which are not in your brain, by the way. Everybody says, my experience is in my brain. It's not in your brain. Your experiences are not in your body. Your experiences are in a non-local consciousness, which is not in space-time. In Hawaii, they have these temples and cow farms. If a cow has been zapped electrically, the next generation of cows will not go to the fence. They already know it's electrical, and they might get shocked. Okay? Then the following generation. Now, people have done experiments right here where you take mice and you have them smell wintergreen, which is a very pleasant smell. Then they get mild electrical shocks. The next 7 generations of mice will be scared by where is the seat of this personality? Where is it coming from? This is why science opens the window to what people already knew, actually, in our tradition.
So you can see that for 7 generations, mice who have never seen wintergreen is scared of wintergreen. Where is it coming from? There's a lot of studies going on, but what is clear is that your experience is not in your brain. It's in your DNA, coming down through the pipeline. Now, let me talk to you a thing called persuasion, not persuasion. How we can make you decide the way we want you to decide, and you don't even know it. So let me touch on that. Oops, sorry.
Persuasion. Persuasion is the practice of getting people sympathetic to your message before they experience it. It is what you say immediately before you deliver your message that leverages your success tremendously.
There's this interesting study. A guy goes to a shopping mall in France, and he tries to get women's phone numbers as they pass various shops so he could call for a date. One of them is a shoe store, and another was a bakery. But in neither of those cases was he very successful. He only got a number 13% of the time. But there was one kind of shop that doubled his success rate when women were passing it, a flower shop. Why? Because flowers put women in the mindset of romance.
Not consciously, persuasively.
If we are paying attention to something important, that's how we decide to pay attention. But a communicator can reroute our attention to something that isn't important, but make it seem important.
So you can see in this experiment that was done in a Paris mall, when this young man was asking the girls for dates, he stood in front of a shoe store, his success rate was only 13%. He goes to a bakery, still 13%. He goes and stands in front of a flower shop, 26% success rate. And a guy at the other end of the mall was asking these girls, did you give your phone number to the guy? If they said yes, would ask, do you recall where he was standing? No idea. It was internal. It's in the subconscious mind that was happening. That's what's worrying us with decision making. Now see, what about websites?
Now marketers, some of them, have studied persuasion's potency. One online furniture store tested images of fluffy clouds versus cold hard cash on its homepage.
Those who saw the background depiction of clouds searched the site for more comfortable furniture. Those who went to the site that had money in the background became preferred to purchase less expensive furniture. Almost no one recognizes that the clouds or the coins had any impact on their behavior.
So now think about it, all of you who have businesses of one type or another, how do you have your websites developed? You find a nice web designer, you tell him about your colors and your theme and your products, and you hope for the best that artistic guy will produce something. Does he know anything about this stuff? How to get people to go exactly where they want to go. Psychology plays a big role. So next time, go back and review your websites and ask yourself, is the message loud and clear? Is this what we really need? Now, what about messing with your head? This is an experiment conducted at Yale University. What they do is, just to give you a lead up, they get student volunteers to come and interview a professor and decide if they would give them a full-time job or not, if they would hire or not. In the first case, they get the students to hold a hot cup of coffee for a few seconds. Another group is asked to hold a cold cup of Pepsi Cola and see what happens.
What we do in our experiment, we very briefly expose people to a warm or cold substance. And what we expect to happen is that that simple experience with a warm substance or a cold substance will prime people to sort of activate
snowstorm in New York on Friday, so I got
cup. And here's the killer question. Would you give Randy a permanent job?
based on your brief interaction with Randy, or would you hire him as project manager?
He seemed like a generally friendly guy. So yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, why not?
Sure, yes. Yes.
Saying warm and friendly things about a stranger, the normal polite response. Time to cool things down. Except for the temperature of the drink. Identical conditions. The same conversation with Randy.
How was your break? You glad to be back?
Not really.
And 6 minutes later, the same questions from Lawrence.
Based on your brief interaction with him, would you recommend him or would you hire Randy as project manager?
As a leader, I'm not sure.
Based on the brief interaction? No.
Maybe not from the impression that I got.
The experiment shows, remarkably, that a brief encounter with a beverage could see you either hired or fired. It's a powerful effect, and one that might have worrying applications.
In the case of, say, consumer products, feeling warm about a product presumably will make you more likely to buy it. Feeling warm about a spokesperson may make you be more likely to listen to that person and trust their...
So you can see now, something you never believed. Is it possible that touching something warm for a few seconds would change your appreciation of that person? Trust me, it happens. In fact, in California, when I go for a meeting, I subtly call the guy 10 minutes before and says, I'm passing by a Starbucks, can I get you a cup of coffee also, please? And I take the hot coffee for him. I give it to him. He holds it. Exact same results. So the recommendations are, at a business meeting, serve hot drinks instead of something cold, and if you're going on a date, order a hot soup instead of a cold salad, right? Some of us can't go on dates anymore, right? Let's look at intuition and logic. What is important to understand is intuition and logic cannot coexist. It's either intuitive or it's logical. And there are some serious consequences here. And we will see how we are going to play your brains out of this one.
Kahneman received the Nobel Prize for his work in the area of behavioral economics. Here he speaks of the two systems that we humans rely on to make decisions.
At the heart of human thinking, there's a conflict between logic and intuition that leads to mistake.
You know, mind is really two ways of operating. And one is sort of fast thinking, an automatic, effortless mode there. Everything that you see and that you understand, you know, this is a tree, that's a helicopter, that's the Statue of Liberty, visual perception, all of this comes through System 1.
System 2.
The sixth example of the two systems is really 2 plus 2 is on one side and 17 times 24 is on the other.
What is 2 plus 2? 4.
4.
And what's 2 plus 2? 4.
4. It is automatic. It just happens to you. It's almost like a reflex.
And what's 22 times 17? I just said 1.
But when we have to pay attention to a tricky problem, we engage slow but logical System 2.
That involves work, it involves concentration.
And can I get you to just walk with me for a second?
System 2 may be clever, but it's also slow, limited, and lazy.
If you are expected to do something that demands a lot of effort, you will stop even walking.
51. 16.
This question concerns this nice bottle of champagne out here. Millicent 2005 to give you a really nice vintage bottle.
These people think a decision about how much they would pay for a bottle of champagne. But what they don't know is that their decision will actually be taken totally without their knowledge by a hidden, fast autopilot, System 1. And with the help of a bag of ping balls, we can influence that decision. First, they got to choose a ball.
Number 10. 10. 10. 10.
They think it's a random number, but in fact it's rigged. All the balls are marked with the low number 10.
What we do is purposefully we give people a first decision that is clearly meaningless. 10. 10.
Okay. Would you be willing to pay £10 for this nice bottle of vintage champagne?
I would, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
This first decision is meaningless, based as it is on a seemingly random number. But what it does do is lodge the low number 10 in their heads. Now for the real question, where we ask them how much they'd actually pay for the champagne.
What's the maximum amount you think you'd be willing to pay?
20.
Okay. £7. £7. Okay.
Probably £10.
A range of fairly low offers. But what a much higher number, 65 instead of 10.
What does that one say? 65, okay. Okay, it says 65.
How will this affect the price people are prepared to pay?
What's the maximum you would be willing to pay for this bottle of champagne? 40?
45 pounds.
45, okay.
50.
40 quid? Okay.
50 pounds?
Yeah, between 50 and 80 pounds.
Logic has gone out the window. The price people are prepared to pay is in nothing more than a number written on a ping pong.
Think about that. And you think you decide on what price to pay? No, you don't decide. You have been impregnated with persuasion ideas. And when you are shown the number, it's just a ping pong ball, for heavens. And you're still deciding. This is the danger you live in. I'll test you now for a moment. Imagine you were coming through Dubai and you decide to buy a laptop for your son for $800, but you come home and he says, I don't want this laptop. So you put it a small advertisement and you sell it for $1,000. What's the profit? Come on, everyone. Awesome. Now, I'll give you a slightly different problem. A bat cost $1 more than a ball. A bat cost $1 more than a ball. A bat and a ball together cost $1.10. How much does a ball cost? Come on. You see, all of you, most of you said 10 cents. You see, you were supposed to use system 2, which is thoughtful, but you gravitated to system 1. Let's take a look at it. Bat minus a ball is $1. Bat plus a ball is $1.10. Divide that by 2, and a ball costs 5 cents. But you couldn't get it. Even after I told you, be careful. And this is a tiny, simple thing. We gravitate to system 1 without thinking through the problem that you think is so easy. The one last video I'm going to show you on this stuff is called ghost options, and that's being used by banks, telephone companies, McDonald's, the whole lot. So you need to know this, because if not, you're going to fall for it.
The use of ghost options to influence your decision.
I'll give you a couple of more examples of irrational decision making. Imagine I give you a choice. Do you want to go for a weekend to Rome, all expenses paid, hotel, transportation, food, breakfast, a continental breakfast, everything, or a weekend in Paris? Now, weekend in Paris, weekend in Rome, these are different things. They have different food, different culture, different art. Now imagine I added a choice to the set. Imagine I said a weekend in Rome, a weekend in Paris. What if it was a trip to Rome, all expenses paid, transportation, breakfast, but doesn't include coffee in the morning? If you want coffee, you have to pay for it yourself. It's €2.50. Now, in some ways, given that you can have Rome with coffee, why would you possibly want Rome without coffee? It's an inferior option. But guess what happened? The moment you add Rome without coffee, Rome with coffee become more popular, and people choose it. The fact that you have Rome without coffee makes Rome with coffee look superior, and not just to Rome without coffee, even superior to Paris.
Let me tell you, in a personal life, exactly the same thing. Let's say you're thinking of going to Singapore, or Bangkok, or Malaysia on a holiday with the family for a week. You go on the internet and you look for hotels. And you see, okay, there are several hotels for $100, you know, but there's one hotel that says $110, but includes free Wi-Fi and free breakfast. Which one do you think you're going for? Like lightning. That's exactly Rome with coffee. You even forget all the other stuff. Your mind just goes right through it. So this is what is called a ghost option. Okay, watch.
Here are two examples of this principle. This was an ad from The Economist a few years ago that gave us three choices. An online subscription for $59, a print subscription for $125, or you could get both for $125. I took this and I gave it to 100 MIT students. I said, what would you choose? And these are the market share. Most people wanted the combo deal. Thankfully, nobody wanted the dominated options. But now, if you have an option that nobody wants, you would take it off, right? So I printed another version of this when I eliminated the middle option, and I gave it to another 100 students. This is what happens. Now the most popular option became the least popular, and the least popular became the most popular. What was happening is that option that was useless In the middle was useless in the sense that nobody wanted it. But it wasn't useless in the sense that it helped people figure out what they wanted. In fact, relative to the option in the middle, which was only the print for 125, the print and web for 125 looked like a fantastic deal. And as a consequence, people chose it. The general idea, actually don't know our preferences that well. And because we don't know our preferences that well, we're susceptible to all of these influences from the external.
So that's the catch. Most of us don't know what we really want. So we are susceptible to the external influence. So marketers know exactly what to do. For example, some of you maybe in my profile it didn't say that, but I used to run 2 big liquor stores in Houston, Texas. But I don't drink liquor, nor do I serve liquor in my house, but I knew all about liquor. And what do? We charge the salesmen, the suppliers, a premium to put their bottle on the eye level shelf. We have 5 shelves, there's 1 eye level. If he wants to occupy that, he's got to pay me extra. Why? Everybody likes the eye level. They don't want to look up and down. The next thing, if Johnny Walker whiskey is the biggest seller, the newcomer fellow, I tell him, I'll put you to the right of Johnny Walker, but you pay me a premium. Why? 80% of the people are right-handed. So they look at Johnny Walker and he's so expensive, the hand goes there. Are you making the decision? No, I made it for you and you don't even know it. I placed it because I know what you're going to do. So this is the danger, that we think we know what we're doing and we don't know. In fact, McDonald's, here's a menu from McDonald's fries. In large numbers, that's it is. Small is $1.39 for 74 grams. So what happens if you divide that by 2? That means you get 37 grams for 70 cents. But if you move from medium to large, you can get 35 grams for just 10 cents. McDonald's places that medium, which is a ghost option, knowing that we can move it. So if you're selling products, go back and review your pricing structure now. We'll tell you about it. Walmart has done it. In fact, you go to a bank and study the fixed deposit interest rates, time and amounts, you'll find there are many ghost options placed in there to drive you to invest more money for a longer term. This is well known. And there are so many unconscious biases. I don't have time to talk outside. We'll talk about all of this. Just look at the last one. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very simple to explain. If today you have a cough and a temperature and you go to the doctor, what is he going to test you for? Recency bias. The doctor is biased. He's saying anything that comes my way, possibility is a coronavirus. See, I showed you many, many things now. We can summarize all of this down the road. But what can you do about it? It's not enough to tell you there's a problem. How do I remedy it? Decision making is part art and part science. The art part is your feelings. Without your, we own software products. They're all feelings driven. And there is uncertainty in the stuff. So the way we start is, we start with an objective. I want to buy a car. So I find 5 cars that I like. And somehow I guess, pray, whatever it is, and I decide. In future, ladies and gentlemen, always identify criteria. Criteria are factors that drive your decision. So you have what is called C&C, criteria and candidates. Now we need a process, and we're going to teach you that. You make the decision. Now, as a decision maker, there are 3 important things for you to do, and absolutely important. Number 1, identify your wants and needs, your criteria. If I'm going to get married, let's say I'm 27 years old, I might have criteria like a big dowry, education, good-looking girl, shapely figure, whatever it is. These are my criteria. You buy a car, it could be status, price, resale value, maintenance cost, all of that. Do you agree now everything must have criteria? You buy a house, it could be price, resale value, distance to work, crime, pollution areas, all that, yeah? Come on. Now you go and find those cars or those houses that are important to you. They are called candidates. If you're hiring, it's the same story. Now the difficult one is how to interpret the data with your feelings. We'll show you in a minute. As you search for the optimum decision, ladies and gentlemen, there is a component called the quality of the decision that is driven by what you see on the screen. and there is also the implementation. The quality and the implementation together form the outcome. And here's something I'm about to say. You're going to disagree with me first time, but think through, then you'll agree. Don't judge the quality of your decision by the outcome. I'm sure some of you are like, what are you talking about? Because all our life, we judge things by the outcome. But read that word that I have underlined. Not the decision I said. I said, don't judge the quality of the decision by the outcome, because you can have a high quality decision that is implemented terribly. So how can you blame the decision? We have to break down and analyze it, okay? All right. I'm going to talk to you about multi-criteria decision. First type of decisions. You just won the green card lottery and you're planning to move with your family to a place in the USA. You come to me and say, Dr. Errol, can you help us, please? We have nobody in the USA that we know. Can you help us? I said, sure, I'll help you, no problem. I said, let's start with some criteria. Remember, I told you, any decision starts with criteria. I said, do you want to live in a hot place or a cold place? Can you afford expensive housing? Are you concerned about crime? Are you concerned about pollution? Do you like to live close to other Indian families? Or maybe your father needs a little medical attention, so is it important by a hospital? Are these fair criteria? Huh? There will be others, but these are fair. Now I go in and find 7 cities in the USA. These are real cities with data that are factual data. And the cities are, I have to change the names for Americans, I don't want them to know, but it's Atlanta, Raleigh, Phoenix, Jacksonville, Seattle, Orlando, and El Paso. These are real cities. Now I'm going to ask you, sir, I've given you all the data, please make the decision. I said, oh, so doctor, it's too much information. Imagine in a corporate setting, you're doing some vendor evaluation, and I give you this data and you're going to tell your boss, sir, I can't reach a decision because I got too much information. He's going to say, what? You can say I don't have enough information. That's okay, but you can't tell. This is the same whether you're selecting a supplier, hiring an employee, locating a branch office, procurement. The same multi-criteria theory applies. And there's a methodology. We developed a 7-step methodology that takes you through step by step, and I can guarantee you the process is solid gold, but the assumptions are that's your responsibility. Clearly define your objective. This is where many people fail, by the way. Many people fail. I have enough examples. We do a module in our workshops just focusing on how to set the objective right. You identify relevant criteria. Often there's too many. So we do what is called a criteria segregation process. We identify available candidates. We get all the data and put it into a judgment table. We assign weights and we rank candidates. Now you will see the letters AHP next to steps 3, 6, and 7. That stands for analytic hierarchy process. It's a highly mathematical technique. You don't have to worry about it because we have software that we give you free. You can use it, no problems. Now, what is AHP? Just Google it. You can do it now or anytime. The last conference had 90 papers published. 19 countries participated. It's well established. It's from about the 1960s that has been there. Here are some of the applications you see if you look online. Solid. Now I'm going to show you how it all operates in a little video.
The AHP comparison. We cannot look at this picture and say, this person is tall or short. But when we compare him to another person, we see that he is short. As you can see, all decisions are relative, not absolute. Imagine you're at an airport and you're watching the TV screen and 2 pictures are presented. And you've asked to distribute 100 points among these ladies. 60-40, 30-70, whatever it is. Difficult? Probably not. Now we're shown 4 pictures and again asked to distribute 100 points, a bit more. This time 7 pictures are presented. This time it requires much more effort. You're probably ready to give up. Let's get back to the pair. Would you say that the pair was easiest to handle? Obviously. Would you also agree that as the number of contestants increased, it became increasingly more difficult to make a reliable judgment? Let's take a look at a problem in the real world. Your manager wants to promote you, but wants you to find a replacement. So you start with a set of criteria. Here we have 37 criteria, and you are asked to select those that are applicable to your particular job. You might select 10, 15, whatever the number is. Now imagine 7 candidates are presented as. Now in the previous example where I presented pictures of 7 ladies, I only showed you the face. I did not show the body, the walk, the talk, the swimsuits, nothing. Dealt with one single criterion, that of facial beauty. You had difficulty deciding between the 7 ladies. How do you think you would handle 10 or 15 criteria? Almost impossible. Additionally, there are multiple decision makers. How would you make a defensible decision? This is a 3D problem with multiple criteria, multiple candidates, and multiple decision makers. Most certainly beyond common sense decision making. Imagine you are selecting compressors and you are faced with 13 criteria and 7 candidates and 4 departments. This would be a nightmare for common sense decision making. Hopefully by now you are convinced that without a robust technique, you are likely to make some serious mistakes.
So, as you can see that the HP technique is highly mathematical, but you don't ever see it. The software drives it, and we are going to show you how it's done. So the first thing is, let me take a simple example. You're going to buy a house, and we're going to find 5 criteria. Did we agree that from now on you don't do any make decisions without criteria? Yes or no? Right. So I'm going to give you 5 criteria for your next house. Price, resale value, distance to work, crime, and pollution. Okay? Just 5. Yeah, could be more. What we do is we ask you to think of any 2. Remember the girls, the pictures? When I gave you all 7 girls, you said, I can't handle this, but give me 2, I'm okay. So what we do is we assume we only have 2 criteria, A and B. Price and resale value. Then I'm going to ask you, explain to me how important or how your preference for price over distance to work, for example, just 2. And you simply say they're equally important or weak or moderate or something. So you express it in terms of a comparative analysis. Now, to better explain this, let's say you come to my home for dinner. So after dinner we sit and talk and I say, hey, I got cake and fruit salad for you for dessert. Which one would you like more? So you say, hey doc, I love cake. Okay. Then I ask a second question. But how much more do you like cake over fruit salad? And look at the dominant scale. You look at it and say moderately. Ladies and gentlemen, even the most complex problem can be resolved with these 2 simple questions, which is which one, how much? Can I have you repeat that? Which one, how much? And I'm going to show you how that whole thing works. That is what HP has done. It has broken down the massive complex problems into something very, very simple. And watch how our software runs with those 2 questions.
Decision making using the analytic hierarchy process. Most of the decisions we make in the real world are multi-criteria in nature. Typical examples would be procurement, recruiting, local branch offices, etc. The best way to explain this is to consider a hotel chain hiring a business development manager. They identify 6 criteria and 4 candidates. Let us now look at the AHP software that we have developed. I have set up the recruiting problem, and when I hit continue, we have the criteria and the candidates that I have already inserted. We move on to the judgment table. The criteria judgment provides pairwise comparison. All you have to do is remember 2 simple questions. Which one? How much? So the first question is between availability and leadership. Which one is important to us? Availability. Then between availability and salary, you might say salary. You proceed with this, and when you finish, you simply say OK, and you hit continue. Now you are presented the candidate judgment, which is identical with the previous case. On this occasion, you're offered 1 criteria with multiple candidates. Once again, we answer the 2 questions. Which one? How much? To say which candidate is more important than the other one and to what degree. We do this for each criterion. When you finish, press OK, and we are presented the criteria weights and the candidate rankings. Once we complete the evaluation, we generate a graph using the chart maker. We see that the optimal decision is Mary. Additionally, we have 6 bands. This is known as the N-1 evaluation. Here we have removed availability.
So let me explain this chart. This is a very important chart, and you've got to focus on it, as I say. Once you run the software, automatically you generate this graph. And I don't know whether this little baby will have this. The last band at the end says the optimum selection is Mary. Very good. However, something interesting happens. And watch what I show you now. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bands representing the absence, not the criteria, but the absence of the criteria. What the software does is, and please follow me, this is very important, the sensitivity of your decision when you remove any one criterion. So, I'll come back to it in a minute after I said the next thing.
Remove leadership. And here we have removed salary, etc. And if salary is not an issue, Sue is a far better.
So, what it is, imagine you are going to hire this lady, Mary, and you go to your boss, and the boss says, hey, if I'm willing to pay any amount of money, is Mary your preferred candidate? I'm not sure. But with our graph, you look at it, and the band says, if salary is ignored, Sue is a much better candidate. So we are studying, and this is the key to it, that's what is called decision validation. We are studying the sensitivity of your decision to the assumptions you made. So if you're marrying a young girl for your daughter-in-law or something, and you started with education, dowry, all the stuff, and after you run your model, there's a band that says, if dowry is not important, who's the candidate? If beauty is not that important, there's another candidate. You can analyze. So for management, this is critical, because you start with some blind assumptions of what is good, and now you can look at the sensitivity of your decision to this stuff. That's the power of this.
Defensible decisions relying on common sense alone? Probably not.
So that's the chart maker. All these are free for you. Just leave your business card down with our people there, and we'll try to help you out. Now, a very specialized version of this is an extraordinarily valuable thing for procurement people. It's called the cost-benefit analysis, not the financial stuff. But what we do is, let's take this laptop. We're buying a laptop. So we have all the criteria, we have all the candidates, and we have all the data. So you keep looking at this day in and day out, trying to figure out, how am I going to do it? So, we run Experters Without Price, our model, and here is the table. The benefits are seen as the output, and here's the cost. We plot a graph, it comes automatically, and see what is showing there. It's showing that the Acer and the Dell have similar benefits, but there's a huge price difference. What the management does doesn't matter to me, but our job is to tell management that's what's out there. You decide if you want to spend the extra money for Dell for whatever reason, but otherwise you can go with the Acer. This is the cost-benefit analysis that shows exactly. So, as Mr. Srikanth was saying, we work with a company called Arriva, which is the largest nuclear power company in the world, manufacturing. Why do they use our software? Because there's documented proof in case the government comes back and say, did you shortcut? Did you try to save money? Did you put the people at risk? No, sir, we ran an evaluation. Here it is. The engineers have gone 20 years, 30 years later. You need documented proof of what you're doing. Now, what we just saw was problems with multiple criteria. I hope you remember that. Now, let's look at problems with uncertainty. Very interesting, and I'll ask you a simple question and we'll just jump into it. Imagine you just got an offer from Indian Oil Corporation to supply some chemicals. It's only available in 3 countries in West Africa: Angola, Congo, and Liberia. Availability, price, everything is the same, but you must only buy from one country because you get volume discount. You ask the Indian embassies there and they say, don't touch those countries, they're hell. But you have no choice, you know you can pick up. What do you like to know more? Let's say you'd like to know if these things could happen. So, I'm going to tell you now, new data. Congo, there's a 25% chance of riots. Angola, there's a 30% chance of a coup. And Liberia, there's a 35% chance of a new government. Ladies and gentlemen, can you tell me where you will buy this stuff from now? Price, logistics, everything is equal. Just the event probability is different. With the highest probability of an incident happening? How do you assume that the new government will favor you? Could go the other way. Huh? But you have no choice. You have to buy from one of them. Ladies and gentlemen, good. So actually what you are indirectly telling me of something that most people miss. What I just showed you is what is called event probability, right? Now let me take a Madras situation. I don't know where we are, but I'm just going to get an announcement saying there was a major terrorist explosion or something on the north side. All roads are blocked up. Everybody stay put. You're going south. Does it impact you? Huh? No. So what we want is not just the event probability, we want the impact probability. What is the likelihood this impacts us? So I'm going to give you some data now. So in the case of Congo, which was 25%, I'm going to say there's a 30%, 50% chance I lose 30% of my contract, 30% chance I lose 40% of my contract. Just some numbers. Now I have predicted exactly how this is going to impact you. And I'm going to give you the data for the others also. Ladies and gentlemen, now you have 21 data points. Can you make a common sense? Oh, post too much information, please. I can't handle it. It's not it's too much information. You're not prepared to handle data in this big world now that we're playing field. And I will show you how it's done. But first, let me touch once again on what is called EP, event probability, and IP, impact probability. Let's take a car crash and a plane crash. So today, touch wood, nothing happens, but let's assume, is there a 10% chance that when you go home today, somebody will hit you from behind on the way? Yes or no? Yeah, right? Is there a 50% chance maybe your car gets damaged and maybe 20% chance you get injured? Just a number. Come on, guys. Good. What about a plane crash? The event probability is 0.00001. That's a very rare chance of, but what's the impact probability? Huh? So when you deal with uncertainties, you must focus on event probability and impact probability. You can't just handle it alone, right? So let me ask a simple question, that a job situation for you folks. You have currently a job, let's say, we don't have a company to call it, let's say Bharat Heavy Electrical or something or another. You have an existing job, you're paid $70,000. And your boss told, look, if you get promoted, you'll get $85,000. But the other department in the company likes you so much, he says, hey, forget that company, that division, come to mine, I'll pay you $75,000. And if the boss leaves and you get promoted, we'll go to $100,000. There's some uncertainty. How do you decide and how do you support that decision to your spouse to say, why did you take it or why did you not take it? You have to draw a logic diagram, right? I won't do much of it, but this is a logic diagram. And then we have to do what is called a zone mapping. But rather than do this, I will give you a very real problem that we did with a pharmaceutical company that is quite interesting. So please follow this carefully. This is a case of a pharmaceutical company having 3 possible projects, but they can only spend on one, and they're trying to figure out which one. And the uncertainties are everywhere. So pay attention, please.
Decisions with multiple uncertainties using decision trees and D-zone maps. J&J Pharmaceuticals are developing a new drug for the treatment of diabetes, thrombosis, and cholesterol. However, J&J can invest only in one of these projects. The cost of pursuing these products, for the preliminary test, we would spend $2.5 million, and for the FDA approval, there would be a cost of $500,000. The marketing department has arrived at potential revenues from these projects. Here too there are some uncertainties. There's a potential for high revenue or low revenue. For example, for cholesterol, the high revenue would be $13 million, while the low would be $7 million. Uncertainties facing Jen are, will the preliminary test be successful? Will the FDA approve the new drugs? Will sales generate the projected revenues? The question for Jen is, which product? We can start with a 50-50 assumption for all uncertainties, and then study the impact of such assumptions on the final decision. Action plan. First draw the TT sketch, then develop the Excel model, then plot the D-zone map, and finally study the uncertainties. Here we have the sketch for the decision tree. We have 3 options, and let's focus on thrombosis. If the preliminary tests are successful, then we proceed for FDA approval. And if FDA approval is granted, we proceed to market, and there is a potential for high revenue or low revenue. Similarly for the other 2 projects. Now to step 2, where we build the Excel decision tree, and in this case, it is for the preliminary tests. Once we complete the decision tree model, with one click, we can create the D-zone map. The model creates 3 zones for the 3 decisions: thrombosis, cholesterol, and diabetes. The zone in which the red pointer lands is the recommended decision. Here we have 3 axes. One is for diabetes, the next is for cholesterol, and up here is the thrombosis. When I change the probability of success, the decision is thrombosis. If I change the probability of thrombosis success to 70%, again the recommendation is for thrombosis. What is important to notice is the distance of the pointer from these demarcation lines tells you the degree of freedom you have with regard to your assumptions. In this case, when the probability of diabetes success drops below 46%, the decision should be for thrombosis. Zone map such as this gives you tremendous flexibility to understand the sensitivity of your assumptions to the final decision. We repeat.
So you see, ladies and gentlemen, that's the name of the game. Management wants to know, we assumed a 50% starting point. Probability of success, probability of failure, high revenue, low revenue. But after you build the model, you can slide the percentage scales and see at what point will your decision change. Again, it is telling you the sensitivity of your decision to the assumptions you made. That is decision validation. Sure, anyone can make a decision and live with the consequences, ladies and gentlemen. But it would be very difficult to defend such a decision in a corporate setting. That is why our thrust is all about analytical decision making and making better, defensible decisions. Because you must incorporate analytics to reinforce your common sense. I hope you're convinced. Thank you very much. Take a picture of our contact information if you like. And there are some books left here probably. You're welcome. And if you do the skill test, that's also very interesting. Thank you.
I'll take some questions from the audience. Please.
Yeah, I will be happy to answer.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you.
I had a question with regards to the probability and the impact which is there.
The impact probability.
Impact probability. Like the previous example that you mentioned, probable blast in the northern part of Chennai, and the traffic towards the southern part of Chennai, would it be high or not? There are several other aspects that add onto it as variables which could contribute to either traffic or no traffic. And again, a criteria which is with regards to curbing what could happen in the southern part of people flooding out to the southern part. So how do you take care of such variables in the criteria making which is there?
What I presented were 2 different types of modeling. One is called single criterion modeling with uncertainties. The other is a multi-criteria problem with variance. So you can feed from the single criterion into the multi-criteria, but the multi-criteria is the final decision maker, really. Okay? That's the powerhouse, really. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Professor.
Good
Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. The question is like this. If it's a general commodity like laptops, yes, we have all the data to do it. But if the question is about, let's say, senior leadership, or let's say, like, looking for a son-in-law, like, who's a Tambram. So you don't have all 5 together and then you can't make decisions. How do you make it? Like, in that case, like, you don't have all the candidates in front of you.
Then you don't have to make a decision. That becomes what is called a yes-no decision, as opposed to multi-criteria decision. So there's a method to actually, what you know, when you do yes-no is, the way we do is, we have your template of what is your norm. When will you say yes? If it meets it,
Criteria.
yes. So you must have a baseline to say, if you don't have comparatives, it's a yes-no decision. You have a baseline saying, what's my yes? If it doesn't meet, then I'm no.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sir, what I understand is that
keep talking. Yeah.
There are 2 aspects. One is the weightage. The other one is the ranking. In case I do not have these 2, I may not be able to make any decision by your method. That is what I feel.
Thank you.
DEA, I do not know the expansion, but there also you do comparison of 2 items at the same time. But the question is, how do you arrive at the weightage or the ranking? That is the big decision. That itself is a big decision. So how do I arrive at that point? So I'm back to 0 where I'm able to make any decisions.
I promise you're not back to 0. I can answer that question in absolute confidence to your satisfaction. There's no problem. I don't know if it might take too long. One of the things I was saying, and I know we were pretty fast, right? What we do is we take your criteria. Remember, let's just take the criteria of the 5 criteria of the houses. Price, resale value, distance to work, crime and pollution. We first take any 2, forget all the candidates, we just take your criteria. You take price and resale value, and I ask you the question, which one concerns you more? Price or resale value? Then I ask you, and you say, let's say price is of greater concern to me. Then I ask, how much more are you concerned about price compared to resale value? And you just say in that scale, moderate concern I have. That converts to a particular number. It's not an absolute number because it's a comparative number. It's not like on a scale you say, oh, the customer service experience was a 5 or a 7. We don't allow you to assign weights to your criteria directly. What the HP eigenvalue matrices do is, it's asking you to compare any 2 at a time. Remember the girls I showed you, 2 is easier than looking at the whole group? So you do A, B, A, C, A, D, giving your feelings. We are after your feelings. And internally, a matrix is calculating the weightage and it will present to you. And we can prove to you, ironclad, sir, that you will buy into it once you see it. In the short term, I can't do it, but if you keep your card, I will send you some additional information to support it, to give you absolute. You don't have to worry about the weightage. That's what our strength is. You express your feelings, the model assigns the weights. That's what it is. And we don't allow you to plonk a weight saying 20% to price, 30% to resale, 15% to distance. No. We are comparing pair at a time, A, B, A, C, A, D, B, C, B, D, E, and you don't even know what you're saying because we are trapping your feelings continuously. Even if you bias it, it's getting through. I hope for the moment, okay? Yes, sir. It's the very same theory, but slight variations are there. You're right, very close to conjoint.
Professor, I have two questions.
Yes,
one
please.
Is there a validity for the decision? Suppose, for example, you're launching something, and do we have to revisit this decision machine after 1 year or 2 years or whatever? What is the validity of this decision making? That's one. And if you have to do further reading, what would you recommend on this? If you have to do further reading on this.
Oh, there's enough on Google. Just Google AHP. That's all you need to do. There's tons of work. In China, over 200 universities are teaching this now. Right? This was not popular. But some, and there are also, by the way, you can buy the software outside for about $4,000 or $5,000. We give it to you free. Because our mission is not about selling software. We want to train you to learn and use it, right? Now, your first question was?
What's the validity of this decision?
Okay. Validity can be defined in many different ways. Recently, the company that brought us here, a consulting company, sent me a model, a decision they had made for a client and said, could you now run this? Can we simulate it in class and see if our decision was right? You know, my answer was, I said, if you are a married man 25 years, can you go back and simulate your experience when you were dating? Now you know your wife, right? All the criteria are going to be biased based on what you already know. So if you know later on what happened, you can't, because we are catching your feelings. Your feelings are well known now. You know how the hell you think about your wife, either good or bad. You can't go and rerun it. This is about going forwards. You can't come back and play with your feelings to get the answer you want. That's what people do. So that's my answer to you, sir.
Professor, happy evening here. But here, sir. Sir, this side.
Okay, go for it.
Sir, there are so many companies in India who had never been used to all these tools and are running for the last 100 years. And there are so many rural companies in India who don't know anything about these tools and still running successful. What would be their definable decisions? What made them run so successful?
Well, I'll tell you, I just gave you examples of companies going after one after the other. McDermott Engineering just last week filed for bankruptcy. There is no immunity anymore. You are surviving on the thread now. It's not because how good you are, how fast the environment is changing. Take the cell phone, sir. The flashlight guys are out of business. The camera guys are out of business. The compass guys are out of business. The music player guys are out of business. They wiped them out. The maps, Navigator mapping company lost 80% of its valuation in one day when Google Maps came on. This is a dynamic society. It's a brutal economy. Technology is rose rapid, as Mr. Srikanth said. Today's projects are very short term. You either evolve or you're done. Somebody's replacing you. So, sir, I know companies have been doing very successfully. If they are smart, they will continue to innovate. And the guys who don't innovate, they are history. Lee Iacocca once said, the greatest obstacle to learning and discovery is not ignorance, it is the illusion of knowledge. When you think you know it, you got a bigger problem. So I spend in my workshop sometimes, like even today, I spent half an hour unlearning you. Because you all come with all due respect, say, I know what the hell it's about. I know how to make decisions. Until you realize even holding a cup of warm cup is going to screw you up, or the ghost option is there. This is happening to you. Persuasion is going on. It's continuous. Are we good? Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Big round of applause, please. Once again, may I thank you, Professor, for this very interesting and enlightening expose. There are many takeaways for us. Most important, of course, being that the use of data to make defensible decisions and the various steps and methodologies to be followed, and also the software that has been developed in making those decisions. I'm sure there's a lot of takeaway from this for our audience this evening. And thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor L. The lucid way in which you talked about is that even a person who thinks they know decision making quite simple, it makes now the guys will think twice before he takes a decision. Actually, that's also good. And ladies and gentlemen, I think big round of applause for him to sparing his time to come and speak to us. We are indeed obliged. May I request Srikanth to please present a memento on behalf of MMA, sir. I also thank Aparna, she's not here, who is associate of Professor. She has been a great source of support to us. Thanks so much. Thanks each one of you. And till we meet again, bye-bye, good night. Get back home safely. Thank you, viewers, all who are watching this program live. Bye-bye, good night.
So that we can contact and give you some information. And don't hesitate to write. I reply to every email. It doesn't matter if it's 100, high or low, everybody gets a reply. Thank you, sir.